Welcome, everyone, to the Maintenance Community Podcast, a podcast for people who want to learn all things about maintenance and reliability. I'm your host, Brian. I'm the CEO and founder of UpKeep. Each week, I'll be meeting with an expert within the maintenance community to take a deep dive into topics sourced from our maintenance community Slack group. And today, I'm super excited to have Ricky Smith back here on the show. Ricky is the expert in residence here at UpKeep, where he actually teaches our own internal team and the wider community more about maintenance and reliability. Welcome to the podcast again, Ricky. I'm really excited to learn from you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate being here. I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready to give it to it.
All right. Again, really appreciate you always taking the time to teach us more, a little bit about all of your experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great. You've been on this podcast a few times, Ricky, but I'm going to ask you one more time. Can you start off by sharing a little bit more about how you were first introduced into this field of maintenance and reliability, and a little bit more about your background in getting introduced?
Okay. While I was in grammar and high school, I enjoyed working on motorcycles and mini bikes to start with, always trying to soup them up, make them faster. And then same thing, my motorcycles and later with cars. See, I'm a patriot, who loves this country. So I volunteered to join the U.S. Army and went to heavy equipment school. Spent 3 years in the Army, got out, went to work at Exxon as a maintenance technician, left there and went to work for Alcoa Mount Holly. And that's really where I learned a lot about true proactive world-class maintenance. I've held positions as a maintenance supervisor, maintenance manager, maintenance engineering leader, and a maintenance company commander in Iraq. So maintenance is in my DNA, okay? Working with organizations all over the world, like Georgia Pacific Corporation, I worked at probably 40 of their plants, DP World, number of their ports, Saudi Bin Laden Group, Reliance, Alcoa, Fontero, BHP Building, and many more. I'm also a certified maintenance reliability professional, certified reliability technician, and a certified reliability leader. What that means is I get past the test. That's all. Okay, so don't take it personal, okay?
All right, thank you, Ricky. Obviously, thank you so much for everything you've done for our country and also for everything that you've done for our community as well. I know you're a big source of inspiration for me personally, and also to a lot of our listeners on this podcast. I've read your books, I've read your materials, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have too. So again, thank you, Ricky, for taking the time to spend it with us here on this podcast. Today, what I wanted to do a little bit more of was talk a little bit about something that you call process mapping. So
Right.
Can you explain to our listeners what process mapping means to you, and within the maintenance reliability industry, why is it important?
Process mapping is a technique of using flowcharts to illustrate the steps of a process. Like in proactive maintenance, it'll start from the beginning, which is work identification, which comes from preventive maintenance and predictive maintenance, all the way through to the end, and then loops back as a continuous improvement loop. It proceeds from the highest level macro perspective to the most detailed level required to identify opportunities for improvement. Process mapping focuses on the work, the required tasks rather than the job titles or hierarchies. Doesn't matter about that. Some of the reasons why organizations do not use process maps is because it's difficult for any organization to optimize a process without a process map. Why don't people have process maps? Some of the reasons they don't use them because they don't know about it. So without a process map, I can assure you, everyone has their opinion how maintenance is supposed to function effectively. Everybody has an opinion, but that doesn't mean it's the truth.
So do you see many organizations using a process map? I mean, obviously we're talking about this because, at least from my perspective, there's a wide variety of different companies that might use a fraction of what you consider a process map. There's some companies that do a great job. Why is this important? And ultimately, do you see enough companies using process maps?
What I could do, I could put companies in a certain category. All the proactive companies I have visited have process maps, all of them. Okay, no matter where I'm at, process maps are there. That way they have a process, they know how to follow it, and they make sure that each step in that process is functioning correctly by measuring it. So each step can be measured.
So, obviously us on the, technology side, we actually go into a lot of companies and we see great process maps. We see companies with these great visions of what step 1 looks like all the way to step 5 to step 10 looks like. But a lot of companies that we work with, often challenge are challenged with the implementation of it. Do you have any like suggestions, recommendations for people and companies that might struggle with, again, that like implementation?
I mean,
No.
the best thing to do if you have a process map is a maintenance process map, pull the map out, look at it, see what the steps are in it, and make sure it makes sense to you. Because if it doesn't follow what you're doing, one of two things: either we're going in the wrong direction, or we need to go back to our process map and make sure it's utilized effectively.
Yeah. And obviously, a big component of that is like you utilizing your CMS to obviously enforce the different steps that you define. And I think what I'm trying to get at here, Ricky, is like you could have the greatest process map, but if you don't follow it, it's
Yeah,
like you never
that's
even
right.
had it. And
Yeah,
obviously, you're supposed to. We should all leverage technology to help us with the implementation of these process maps, because ultimately like technology is here to support your process. It's not
yeah,
the other way around. Like you don't bend your process to work with technology. It should be the other way around.
yeah. Well, when you talk about the CMMS, I can tell you, most companies that I've dealt with over the years do not understand the CMMS by itself. They don't use it, fully, which is a problem. So the CMMS is a vital component to it. And if we don't use the right CMMS and we don't have it implemented correctly with process maps, how do you implement a CMMS without a process map? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
What are we managing, with that CMMS?
I mean, I think it goes back to your point. Like, what happens when you purchase a CMS without a process map or without even a strategy?
Yeah,
Is what companies wind up doing is adopting what technology has like out of the box. But what we also know is that every single business, every single setup, every single implementation is a little bit different. It's very unique to
yeah,
their individual business. And the reason why it's so important to have the strategy before you purchase technology, and obviously I'm saying this, on the technology side, and it almost might be, less self-serving, is like you got to have the strategy first before you purchase technology, because all technology does is reinforce the existing process. And if you
yeah.
don't have one, then you're reinforcing nothing.
You're right. I can tell you from my experience, even very recently, I asked people, do you have a CMMS? Yes. Okay. Do you have process steps in it? I mean, do you have a process maps that are aligned to CMMS to give you what you need to take you through this journey of optimal reliability at optimal cost? And I can tell you, most of the time, it's no. We have a CMMS, but it doesn't tell us anything. So why do you have it? Because corporate says we have to have it.
My guess, when you talk about process mapping, it's not just from like work order creation to work order closeout. It's process mapping for everything. It's how you
Everything.
submit a request. It's how you purchase a part. It's how you submit.
That's right.
It's also like what's the standard and what's the process for creating an asset or purchasing an asset. The process mapping is much more than just having a process for work orders. It's how your business and how your team operates. All right, Ricky, really appreciate the context around your experiences working with process maps and the benefits of it. We're starting this new segment on the show where at the end of every single episode, we try to do a quick fire set of questions. You ready for this, Ricky?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first one is, what technology are you most excited about, or one that you think will leave a lasting impact on the industry?
You asking me that?
I'm asking you, Ricky.
It's definitely the most lasting impact is going to be the CMMS. We got to do it. We got to use it. We got to make sure that we follow it, and we got to make sure that we get the results we want. Otherwise we'll never be successful. Some things I've learned over time is people don't know what they don't know. Making sure the leadership team understands maintenance best practices and the benefits of the process with best practices. Everybody wants maintenance best practices, but they don't talk about the process maps that go along with them on each step. That's what we miss. Alignment of people, alignment of how they think and how their actions has to be aligned with processes, with a process map. Everybody needs to be trained on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, from what I hear from you, Ricky, it's the combination of the people, the strategy, also alongside the technology to help implement
Right.
it. And once you do that, once we do that, that's really where you start to find like true value that's going to have a big impact on the entire industry. All right, next question. What's your favorite memory of the biggest win you've had within, the maintenance reliability industry?
I'm working with a company which it was in a sold out market. Plant manager called me, to the plant to help. The maintenance manager did not want me there. He had an attitude, and he felt like I was not needed. He said he could make it happen without my help. Then why didn't he do it before? You know. So the first thing I did was I presented to the leadership team what maintenance best practices look like and the benefits of this process and how it provides continuous improvement of asset reliability. Second, I assessed the maintenance organization against known best practices. Together, we created a master plan with them and established goals and targets. Okay, so our targets are how we're going to move along in the phases and what goals, where we're going to meet certain goals in that plan. And it's going to be a 3 to 5 year plan. We implemented the plan. The company in 3 months increased production by 30%. That doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but that's a huge amount of money to them. It was massive, but it took a whole change of thinking. Everybody had to think differently than they ever thought before.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely huge, and it really goes to show like just the change in mindset can lead to some pretty drastic like improvements in the bottom line. And
Yeah.
to me, you know, I love these types of stories, Ricky, because it really showcases again like how maintenance reliability can really just drastically not just be a cost saver to the business, but drive revenue, drive production if you do it and when you do it right.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Next question up. What's the biggest mistake you've learned a ton from?
I didn't know what a leader was until I went to U.S. Army National Guard Officer Candidate School. I thought, telling people what to do was all that was needed, and these are the principles which changed my life. One is know yourself and seek self-improvement. Do you know yourself, your strengths and weaknesses you can't improve? Be technically and tactically proficient. In other words, if you're in maintenance, you need to understand maintenance full degree. Make sure you understand how to apply it with the tactical side. Okay, long range. Develop a sense of responsibility among your subordinates. Don't brag about what you know. Educate them, bring them along in the journey. Make sound and timely decisions. Don't keep putting things off. Make a decision. So many people get stuck. Oh man, I can't make a decision on that right now. Yeah, we never will. So let's just go ahead and let me make a decision for you. Okay. Set an example. If you're a maintenance manager, you got technicians, if you come in late, probably not a good sign. Okay. Not setting the example. Never ask someone to do something you won't do. Know your people, look out for their welfare. It's a big one. Keep your people informed. Seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. Ensure assigned tasks are understood, supervised, and accomplished. In maintenance, this is a big one. We ask someone to go out and do something. We got a work order. All it says it was replace chain drive. Did they understand that task? Probably not. Did we supervise it, make sure it was done correctly? Probably not. Was it accomplished to specification? Maybe not. Train your people as a team. There's no I in the word team. So we train our people as a team. We employ, our team in accordance with its capability. We don't ask people to do something they can't do. That doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, these are a great set of leadership principles to like follow and abide by. And you're kind of, you highlighted this as like some of the mistakes that you had made within your early career. And, I actually, I think I've made a bunch of these mistakes too, in terms of like how I lead teams. And for me personally, I'm learning a ton along the way. And
Yeah.
when I listen to you talk about these, 10, 11 different leadership principles, like I look at that and I say, okay, wow, like I can really learn a lot from that too. Ricky, maybe just to wrap up right here, obviously you have been a great inspiration to me and so many others in the industry to continue learning and just trying to like be a better self in terms of maintenance reliability professional. Where do you go for new ideas? Where do you continue to go to learn more?
Well, one thing you can do is join us on webinars with, with UpKeep. So we have, bi-weekly webinars. They're only 1 hour. And if you go, just register for them. And if you register for it, then you can't attend it because you have different time zone, or maybe you don't have time at that time. The recording will be sent to you. That way you can watch it later. I've got a lot of workshops coming up, maintenance best practices this week. Tomorrow is best maintenance technician practices. So a lot of training. You can go to my website at worldclassmaintenance.org. You'll see a lot on there. You don't need to put an email address in there. I don't like that. So you can download anything you want. There's a lot of help documents in there. If you got a problem, you don't need to contact me. You can if you want to, but you can just go in there and download what you need.
All right. Thank you so much, Ricky. And thank you
Oh,
for
wait a minute. One more thing. If you
All
need
right.
a CMMS, check out UpKeep first, okay?
I promise I did not pay Ricky to say that, but thank
No,
you,
he
Ricky,
didn't.
for always doing the big shout outs to me and to UpKeep. We've really enjoyed working with you, and I really appreciate you being on this podcast today.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
going
you
through
very
those
much.
quick fire set of questions. Can you lastly share with all of our listeners the different ways that they can connect with you?
You connect with me, R. Smith at worldclassmaintenance.org, or you can go to my website at www.worldclassmaintenance.org, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Ricky Smith, CMRP.
Awesome. Thank you again, Ricky, for joining us. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today's episode of the Maintenance Community Podcast. Again, my name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of UpKeep. You can also connect with me. I'm super active on LinkedIn. You can also find me and also Ricky on the Maintenance Community Slack group. You can feel free to ask us any questions or also suggest any future topics. You can sign up at upkeep.org. I hope to connect with all of you soon. And until next time, thanks again, Ricky.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ryan.